Hello everybody, and welcome back to All the Mods 9. In the previous episode, we continued to explore our world and eventually obtained unobtainium. We also did some miscellaneous things, such as hooking up our nuclear power plant up to our refined storage system. And in between episodes, I have been fairly busy. What I did first off was go through and upgrade all of my mechanism machines that are here in this process. It basically makes it way more efficient overall. So if we open it up, we can see we actually have 5 slots here in total, each of them going through and processing each of the different ores. And these all also have 5 slots. Eventually it gets turned into ingots. And overall, this is just way more efficient. And I even added these energy upgrades inside, filling them completely with 8 out of 8. And we're now only using about 1,000 FE per machine, which is really not that bad overall. I also made a few upgrades to my reactor here. You can see here I busted through the ceiling. I increased it by 6 in total. So each of these has 6 more fuel rods that can be filled with fuel. And yeah, I think we can go up to about 40,000 RF per tick, which is pretty insane. I also spent a decent amount of time in the Nether looking for the vibranium upgrade template, and eventually I did find one after like 5 or 6 hours. It was pretty long just trying to find it. Basically, you need to look for the treasure room bastion variant, and then you use a brush to dig some suspicious soul sand, and eventually you'll get the template. So yeah, I just used that to upgrade my armor, and overall it's looking pretty good now. I used I think it was the warden trim, or the ward I think is what it's called, on my armor. And yeah, I think I used all the modium for the trim itself. So what I want to do today is go up. I want to go about right there. My goal right now is to actually reach space and explore around for a bit. And eventually I do want to build a little bit of a base up in space. And the way that we're going to achieve that goal is by using the mod Ad Astra. Ad Astra is a mod that allows you to build spaceships and explore several different planets within space. I've used this mod before, but I haven't really gotten that far into it, so I am excited to see where it goes. So all the mods does have a quest line for this mod. To the stars, we can go ahead and claim our rewards. But I think we're going to need a lot of steel for this mod, so what I want to do is make a dedicated steel factory using Mechanism's metallurgic infuser. And I do already have a few set up over here, but these are more for like a manual process, and yeah, sort of making things like basic control units and this infused alloy. I think I want to separate like almost a little machine over on this side that's connected to my refined storage system, and our separate. So we'll go ahead and craft that, and I'll probably need some flux points, and we'll also need some cables to actually hook this up to the system. So I just want to find a decent place for this, probably a few blocks over here. This is directly over the line here, so I'll go ahead and hook that up. I do want to leave a space here for an importer, and we can put an exporter on top. I'll just put the cable there for now so that we can place the user. We'll get power running through the back. That work. And I think I'm going to have an exporter set up on the bottom and the importer on the side. And the way that I'm going to do this is actually I'm going to use a detector. Now, detectors will detect the amount of an item that is inside of your system. And because I don't want this to completely chew through all of my iron and coal, we're going to use the detector to actually limit the amount of steel that we can have in our system. And it has been a while since I've used these, so for now I'm just going to place it down here next to the exporter. This should output a redstone signal when we give it a item in our system. We do actually have a few bits here. Fill that up, and let's say when we have 1,000 steel in our system, the system will turn on, or the detector will turn on, and that will turn off the export. So on the importer side, all I want to do is make sure that it's only importing steel ingots. And now we can set up the exporter as well. We're going to need iron and coal. Here we go. We can go ahead and place that inside the exporter, and that should start filling this up. And it looks like it is. Gonna do it very slowly at first, but that is perfectly fine. Now we will need to configure this a little bit here. So on the bottom, we want this to be inputs. Kind of wish that we could do extra end. I might have to think of a workaround for that. For now though, I think I'm just gonna make another exporter here. And yeah, that should work. I think what I'm gonna do is take out the coal from that, put it into the side of there, and I will configure this right side to be the extra, then the bottom to be the input, and we will set left to output. So right now I'm gonna set the detector up to say 32. That way we can actually test this working. Type in steel. And of course I completely missed a few steps here. For some reason I thought that it went completely into steel, but what we actually need to do is set up a second metallurgic infuser to infuse the output of that, which is enriched iron. We need to add even more coal to it, and that'll turn it into steel dust. Then steel dust we will smelt in an energized smelter. Alright, so I just went ahead and swapped things around a little bit here and actually figured out a decent way to do this machine. So on this first metallurgic infuser, through the back we are importing our iron, and through the bottom we're doing coal. Forgot to do that. On the second metallurgic infuser, we're just importing coal here through the bottom. No need to do anything through the back. Then it goes over to the right, turns into steel dust, and inside of the energized smelter, it turns into steel. Down below, we can see we are importing it back into the system. Now on the back, we have a detector, and this is set up to emit a signal when above the amount of 32. So hopefully when our system reaches 32 steel ingots, it'll shut off, and yeah, the system will work. I'll have to just wait a little while to see if we actually get there. All right, we're at 31 now, so once it reaches 32, it should stop. There we go, 32. That should emit a redstone signal, which I'm not exactly sure if it did, actually. Let's see if it's still importing here. So it's not actually importing anymore now that we have more than 32 ingots in the system. It will probably create another stack after it stops, but honestly, that's perfectly fine. So what I want to do is put this at, we'll do 1028. Is that? Oh, I was wrong. It's 1024. My engineering skills are a little bit on the lacking side. All right, so that should be working now. And once we get 1,000 steel ingots, we should be ready to go. So while we wait for the steel to smelt up, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on a new build from which we can launch our rocket. All right, and here we have it. This is sort of our space station, or our launch pad at least. I built it a little bit in inspiration of the Kennedy Space Center. It does look a little bit different though, but yeah, so there's not much to talk about. I did make this sort of flag here, and I just used the powder for a little bit of like texturing detail, almost as if the painting is starting to fade out a little bit. For the walls itself, I went with white concrete, similar to the nuclear silos outside as well. And then I just went through and randomized the bricks, or the walls with bricks and the stacked white concrete. And then we have these like little light gray concrete panel deals. These are mostly for decoration. They don't really serve any sort of purpose. So if we take a look inside, obviously it's very empty right now, but I'm sure we'll fill that pretty soon. I just went with tiled diorite for the floor. I'm not entirely sold on it, but I think it'll do for now. So in this sort of second room, this is, I believe this is where they would like build the rockets and stuff in the Kennedy version. So this part is like really tall, and then it has these panels that can be removed, and then they would like take the rocket out on, like, I think they have a rail system for it. I don't really quite remember though. But yeah, then they would take it out here onto the launch pad. Now, I think this is probably my favorite part of the build. It is using a lot of the create sorry, not the create Astra, the add Astra parts here. So we have iron pillars as sort of the border, iron plating, and even these little small red industrial lamps. These look so good as sort of a like a warning, like this is the ledge sort of deal, I guess. And then right here we have a I'm not exactly sure what to call it. It's basically the structure that keeps the rocket in place and fuels it up, and yeah, keeps it from falling over until it's ready to launch. And for the lighting in this area, we're actually using these feral flare lanterns from Torchmaster. These basically put invisible torches, I guess, all around, so that we don't actually get any sort of spawns in a pretty close area. And by the way, this place is called the Tin Starfish Aeronautics Association, I think is what the last A is going to stand for. I'm not sure. I just kind of threw the lettering together and then came up with what the acronym would be. It's sort of the this world's equivalent of NASA, though. All right, and while I was working on that, we have gathered up a decent amount of steel ingots. I actually did decide to increase the amount that we are capable of holding, so we now have 1,400. I believe the max is set up to about 1,000 more than that. I could be wrong though. Oh, it looks like we have actually run out of coal, which yeah, not a good sign. I'm curious if we can make, or if we can use charcoal with this. Okay, it looks like we can use charcoal, so I'm just gonna go ahead and swap out the exporters. There we go. And I will add charcoal to that because we do make a ton of charcoal right now, and I can always make more because our tree farm is completely full right now. So yeah, that should be good for now. I don't think we're gonna need a whole lot of steel right at this moment, although I guess with our first ship we will need a lot of steel. So yeah, let's go ahead and figure out what we need to actually get started with Ad Astra. This mod fortunately does come with a book, so we can go ahead and figure out what we need. Obviously, we're going to need a launch pad, and oh, okay, this is a lot of steps. Okay, so first we'll need to generate power. I'm assuming we really don't need to do this, considering we have a nuclear reactor. Making steel, we already have that. Fuel is going to be another thing though. Okay, so for oil, it does accept any type of oil, so these are all or dictionary together, so we shouldn't have to worry too much about that. We will have to go out and claim a lot of this, so I think I'm gonna grab a couple buckets, and I will probably make a tank. The singularity tank might work. That's only 32 buckets though. We'll probably need a lot more than that, so let's see if we can make a bigger one. That's 1,000 buckets. Yeah, let's go with this one. We'll go ahead and make 3 more of those and make the jumbo tank. And now I just need to go out and try to find somewhere that there's oil. We used to have some here on the island, but I think I filled it all in. I think it was right about there. So I'm gonna have to go out into the ocean and track some down. I do see this one over here. Let's see if this one actually will count. Oh, what is under here? A distraction, that's what that is. All right, let's see. Okay, so that takes that entire thing. This is add Astra oil. That's good to know. Okay, so we'll just have to figure out a way to just pick this all up. I guess I'm just gonna bucket it in and see how it goes. All right, and I think that was everything. And in total, it looks like we got 49 buckets of oil, which is not too bad, I don't think. I'm not really sure how much we're gonna need for our rocket, but yeah, the ocean looks a little bit nicer now though, so that's a good thing. All right, so let's figure out what we need next. And it does look like we're gonna need a total of 6 buckets for a launch and return. So good thing we got as much as we did. So next up, we need a fuel refinery, which really does not look too bad. Let's go ahead and make that really quick. Let's go here, fuel refinery. We just need steel plates, which shouldn't be too bad. We get a hammer. Looks like this hammer doesn't work. Yeah, here we go. We just needed to rearrange it a little bit. So here's the steel plates. We're gonna need a lot of these, so I'm just gonna make a stack actually. We'll need those for the future, so let's see here. We need the, I believe it was the oil refinery, right? Or the fuel refinery? Type in refinery. Fuel refinery. Just need a furnace, and there we go. We can go ahead and craft that up. Now, I do need power in this building because I want all of the Ad Astra building parts over here. So I'm wondering, let's just make a flux point. So I'm not really sure exactly how many of these machines that we're going to need, but for now I'm just going to place the flux point there and put some cables there. And I'll just set the fuel refinery on top of that. Make sure that we are selected on our flux network. And let's see how this machine works. All right, so it looks like all we're gonna have to do is just bucket it into the machine. So if we right click the refinery and then click it into there, it will begin to turn into fuel. And then on this side, I believe we need it right there. As soon as it gets to a bucket, it'll fill with fuel. I'm gonna use the pipes mod and see if we can actually pump this into the machine, because I really don't feel like doing this all manually. It does look like that works, so that's good to know. And yeah, that'll just begin to fuel up there. And put that back in. And I wonder what we can do for the output. Maybe just honestly fill this up with buckets. But we do need to pull it back out then. Alright, so I just went ahead and made this little system here. So what it does is it takes the oil from the tank over here, inputs it into the refinery, and outputs it into the fluid pipe here, which goes into a fluid encapsulator, and that goes into a barrel. Yeah, what the fluid encapsulator does is it basically takes a fluid and puts it inside of a object that can hold a fluid, such as a bucket. So that is how we're gonna get our fuel. And as I was explaining that, I just realized that the fluid encapsulator can auto input from a side, so we don't even need the pipes on top. We just pull it directly out of the encapsulator, which should save us a little bit of room if we go ahead and put the barrel there on top, and make sure to switch that to output mode instead so that it doesn't keep pulling the buckets out. And yeah, there we go. So that is our fuel taken care of. Let's see here. Next up, we're actually going to want to make the NASA workbench, which is basically the work table that will allow us to assemble our first rocket. Here we go. Pretty simple recipe. Just needed some steel blocks, steel plates, and some iron rods. Here we go. And where I want to put this is probably right about here. Honestly, I think I want to pull it back a little bit. Probably about here. I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and open it up, and you can see that this is a pretty complicated recipe here. It does look like it's in the shape of a rocket though, so that is nice. Basically, we're gonna have to fill this up with very specific components, such as the steel plating for the body. I think we're gonna need fins, a rocket, etc., etc., and that will actually allow us to go ahead and launch. We'll also need 2 launch pads, one for where we are launching from, and one where we land, and I forgot how big these things are. That looks so ridiculous. I think this is a 3x3, so if I place it right about there, I think that'll look good. Hopefully that, yeah, I think that'll do. What I was sort of worried about is once we actually launch, if we accidentally move off to the side while launching, we could potentially clip the thing here, but I think right here is going to be good though. I think we'll be fine. So before we build our rocket, what I want to do is build our spacesuit. This will allow us to breathe while we're in space. And yeah, for this we will need oxygen, which is obtained in an oxygen loader. Need a couple of these gas tanks, a fan, and last up we'll need a lightning rod, and that should be everything for the oxygen loader. And what the oxygen loader actually does is it separates out the oxygen from a liquid, such as water. So what we want to do is we would also like to make a sink, which is an infinite water source. So I think I'll just place this down. I think I'll put it up actually. Sort of almost like a lab sink, if you will. All right, and then I will I'll put it over here. We'll just hook that up with the fluid pipe. Get our wrench out and start pumping that into the oxygen loader, which is now, it should be filling with water. All right, so I did actually end up getting this working. We need to use the fluid encapsulator once again for this. So yeah, we have the sink over here, encapsulator in the middle, and then the oxygen loader over to the side here. And I don't... Am I duplicating buckets? Hold on. I place one in there. Or... Okay, I definitely just found a bug. That's great. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. Anyway, let's go ahead and put it over here, and then we have the oxygen goes on the right side, put it into a bucket, and then we get our oxygen out there. So when we get our tanks and stuff, we'll use the oxygen loader to actually fill those up. Speaking of that, let's get started on building our spacesuit. This is pretty simple. We're just going to need some gas tanks and oxygen gear. We've already made this before. Here we go. And make 2 tanks from that. Oxygen gear. And that should be the chest plate. We do need to get the rest of it though. The pants, which is really simple. The boots, pretty simple as well. And finally, the helmet, which I think is the... Actually, nope. Never mind. I thought it was more complicated than the chest plate, but yeah, it's pretty simple. Alright, so while we're in space, we are going to need some extra oxygen. So what we want to do is make a few extra gas tanks. From the past, I've noticed that we probably only need 2, maybe 3 extra ones, depending on how long we want to stay up there. But yeah, so what we do is we open up the oxygen loader and just insert it. Also, I think I broke the oxygen loader because it's duplicating buckets, and earlier it was putting water buckets over here and filling them with water. It was really weird. So yeah, I basically made it so the fluid encapsulator no longer auto outputs to the side. So if you're doing this alongside with me, just do this manually. It doesn't need a lot. We don't really need a lot of oxygen, so yeah, here we go. So I will need to keep putting some buckets in here and making sure that our gas tanks are full. And also, before I forget, don't forget to fill your spacesuit up with oxygen as well, because that is sort of your main supply of oxygen until you run out, and then you can use your gas tanks. Alright, so I think we're now ready to begin building our tier 1 rocket. Now this is going to take a lot of steel. As you can see, the body is all steel blocks. The nose cone requires steel, I believe. These steel tanks require it. So yeah, that is a good thing that we made that steel factory. So I'm going to go ahead and probably screenshot this. Just so that I have a reference to this, and then I'm gonna just go ahead and start building out all of the individual pieces, and then when we come back, we will assemble it all together. Alright, and I think we now have everything that we need to actually begin assembling our first rocket. So I'm just going to go ahead and place everything inside that we need to. We have the nose cone and the steel blocks for the body. I believe it was the steel tanks right there. The 4 rocket fins. Finally, the steel engine. And here it is. Tier 1 rocket in a very loud explosion. And here we go. Oh man, that thing is absolutely huge. Here we go. So yeah, we have the rocket now, and sorry, it's so ridiculous. All right, we can go ahead and place it down on our launch pad now. And it looks really tiny, honestly, in comparison to, oops, the frame that we have. But we will in the future get bigger and bigger rockets. But for now, this one is ours. So I believe if we shift right click, yep, we can see, I think this is an inventory. So if we wanted to bring anything back from outer space, then we could. But yeah, we do have the wireless crafting grid that can go across dimensions. So I'm pretty sure that that'll work for this. So what we're gonna need over here is, it says air, but I'm pretty sure this is where we need to put the fuel. I could be wrong though. Let's go ahead and grab out a little bit of fuel here. It said we need 6 for a round trip, so yeah, we have, let's grab 3 more, just because I'll probably forget the next time I take the rocket out. So that is how we get inside. If right click, okay, it does look like if we put it on the left side here, it'll actually begin to fuel up. So yeah, it's a little bit weird that that's labeled as air by default, but as soon as we begin to fill it up with fuel, it changes to fuel. So I think that's everything that we need. The only thing left is to put on our spacesuit. And this brings back memories to my previous playthrough. Alright, so before you actually launch off into space, I highly recommend reading this chapter of the Ad Astra book, Preparing to Launch, because if we miss any of these steps, it could potentially strand us in outer space. The two things that we're really going to need is a launch pad and 3 buckets of fuel. We sort of already talked about this, at least the fuel. In terms of the launch pad, though, we definitely need to make sure that we have that on us. Otherwise, we cannot come back. And if you're super paranoid about like losing your stuff in outer space, or if you're playing on hardcore or something like that, what you can do is actually go through and enchant your armor from Ad Astra, your spacesuit, and you can even turn it into Apotheosis armor. So yeah, if you want like to be super overpowered while you're in outer space, you can do that. I don't think I'm gonna do that, mostly because I have like 12 extra health bars, so I think I'll be fine. I also have some waystones with me. Let's see here. We have the crafting grid, extra launch pad, extra gas. I even have my armor here. I don't know if we'll die if we put on the armor in outer space. We probably will. But I did just realize how long this episode is. It is a little bit longer than usual, so I think we're gonna leave things on a little bit of a cliffhanger for today. I'm so sorry about that, but yeah, next episode we will for sure go to space. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.